Judicial for inviting me to speak today to you all on cybersecurity. So let me just get my screen up. Okay, we're good to go. Diana, you can see my presentation?
Yep, you're good to go.
All right, perfect. So I am very cognizant of everyone's time. So I have my timer here for 50 minutes for 1 credit. That is how long I have to speak. At the end, like Diana said, please put any questions you have in the question pane. I will answer them in whatever remaining time we have. But don't worry, if I don't get to them at the end, I will gladly reach out. I'll have Diana get, or myself will get your email address, and I will reach out after the presentation. So with that, let's get started. So, cybersecurity, survival of the Securest. Cybersecurity is at the forefront of everyone's minds because it is and will continue to become one of the most significant challenges in our business, both small and large businesses. We will face these day in and day out in the battle of ever-evolving creativity of the criminal mind. We're going to be discussing topics crucial to your business and how you can spot, learn, and most importantly, avoid cybersecurity threats going forward. Information that I'll be presenting has been gathered from a large group of cybersecurity companies reporting on cybercrime that will be discussed and analyzed. The reason there are so many of these reports, studies, and articles on the topic is because of the exponential increase in cyber attacks over the last few years. While the normalization of the home office, smartphones and tablets, basically laptops in our hands, and a myriad of other technological advances have all increased ease and ability for us to work from anywhere, these advances have also at the same time increased the likelihood of attack by fraudsters targeting weak defenses and have made the financial sector specifically a prime target. Some of these types of attacks you will have heard about already, and you may say we already know how to combat them, but we will discuss how these old ways of attacking are evolving and how we need to evolve with them. The objective here is to increase the understanding of the new trends and the cybercrime that follow them. We're also going to be discussing the existing old threats and remind everyone that these have not disappeared and that they are still, in fact, large threats. So, agenda, we're going to review of the vast world at today's internet and the evolution of the world. First, we're going to address cybercrime trends targeting against businesses and review cybercrime statistics. Next, we're going to analyze the impact of cybercrime on the financial sector during 2021. We'll also discuss the emerging cybersecurity threats that arose in 2021. We'll look at new and trouble strategies and fraudsters are using. And after that, we're going to dig into some details of the following cybersecurity threats and recommended best practices and techniques you can employ to protect yourself and your day-to-day business operations, including ransomware, malware, phishing, and wire fraud. So, the beginning, what do we know? Now, I want to actually first quickly start off with rules of professional conduct and why this might apply to attorneys more than we may think. 1.6 of the confidentiality of information in the rules of professional conduct states, a lawyer shall not knowingly reveal confidential info as defined in this rule or use such information to the disadvantage of a client or for the advantage of a lawyer or a third person. Great. Confidential info consists of information gained during or relating to the representation of a client, whatever its source. This is A, protected by the attorney-client privilege, likely to be embarrassing or detrimental to the client if disclosed, or information that the client is requesting to keep confidential. Confidential info does not ordinarily include legal knowledge or legal research, or information that is generally known to the local community or in that trade, field, or profession. C is one of the more important ones because it lists the rule that I want to focus on. A lawyer shall make reasonable efforts to prevent the inadvertent or unauthorized disclosure or use of unauthorized access to information protected by rules 1.6, the ones we're covering, and the following rules, 1.9C or 1.18B. So let's just go quickly to those. 1.19C, a lawyer who has formally represented a client in a matter, or whose present or former firm have formally represented a client in a matter, shall not thereafter use confidential information or reveal confidential information. 1.18 18B, even when no client-lawyer relationship ensues, a lawyer who has learned information from a prospective client shall not use or reveal that information. So I'm going to go quickly back to C. Are you making reasonable efforts to prevent the inadvertent or unauthorized disclosure of your client's information? Are you keeping your information on a home network? Are you keeping it on your office work networks? Are your firewalls up to date? What are you doing to protect your client's information so that you might not be in violation of the rules of professional conduct? Because sometimes I have attorneys come up to me, well, what is cybersecurity? How can that hurt me? So those are a couple other ways, but another way some people don't really think of is Rule 1.5, preserving identity of funds. 1.15, preserving identity of funds and property of others, fiduciary responsibility, commingling, and misappropriation of client funds or property, maintenance of bank accounts, record keeping, examination of records. E, a lot of attorneys will be shocked to hear authorized signatories. All special account withdrawal shall be made only to be a named payee and not to cash. Such withdrawal shall be made by check or with the prior written approval of the party entitled to the proceeds by bank transfer. Only a lawyer admitted to practice law in New York State shall be an authorized signatory on a special account. Now you can set protocols so that you're approving someone underneath you to help out with this, but preserving funds in an IOLA account, in an attorney's account, you have to make sure that you are going above and beyond to prevent your client's funds from being hacked, diverted, stolen, whatever the case may be. And we're going to talk about that throughout the presentation, the best ways to do that. So let's talk about the costs of cybercrime. 2020 estimated average cost to small businesses was close to $5 million per breach. The Ponemon Institute, which was founded in 2002 by Dr. Larry Ponemon, headquartered in Michigan, is a research center dedicated to privacy, data protection, and information security. Their annual consumer studies on privacy trust are widely quoted in the media, and their research quantifying the cost of breach has become valuable to organizations seeking to understand the impact of stolen data. Organizations engage the Ponemon Institute to conduct studies on topics that support their leadership and objectives. This institution is best known for its annual cost of data breach, sponsored by IBM. Cybercrimes are not cheap. IBM reported that the breaches associated with just business email compromise cost an average of $5.1 million in 2020. The IBM Ponemon cost of data breach report stated that the average cost of a data breach, and now just a quick sidebar, there is the terminology of a breach versus a hack. We'll go over a little further on because they do differentiate them later on in the report. So the cost of a data breach for small businesses with under 500 employees is almost $3 million per incident. So there's a difference between a breach and an incident. BullGuard, an internet security company, they're a part of Norton now, reports that 43% of small businesses have no cybersecurity protection strategy, while 20% do not use any form of endpoint security. Modern endpoint protection is aimed at providing advanced threat detection and remediation to protect businesses from malware and ransomware. Meanwhile, Verizon reports that only 47% discover a breach within the first few days of the occurrence. Datto, which is an American cybersecurity and data backup company, reports that 4 in 5 managed service providers, so IBM, Infosys, and Accenture, identified ransomware as the biggest malware threat to small businesses at 68%. When I give this presentation, one of the biggest fears that when I talk to people is, and specifically small business owners, keeping it up, that is keeping them up at night, is keeping their data secure. How to stop these constant wave of ransomware and malware and these phony emails that are coming in that I'm sure every single person here has seen. VIPRI, which is an antivirus protection, reports that 47% of small businesses say keeping data secure is their biggest challenge. Verizon goes on to say that 57% of data breaches target small businesses were inflicted by outside threats and involved some form of the human element. Alliance Cybersecurity reported that 22% of small businesses jumped into working from home in 2020 because of COVID without any cybersecurity plans or policies. So let's talk about that accelerator, COVID. COVID has accelerated this threat of cybercrime, as well as opening more avenues to being a victim. One of the largest byproducts of COVID was the working from home model, and now the hybrid model, which is more prevalent amongst most companies at this point. Rich and I were talking about this prior to the start of the presentation. A survey by Gartner, which is a research and consulting firm, found that 47% of companies will give employees the choice of working remotely full-time, even now that the pandemic is considered over. 82% said employees can work from home at least one day a week. Why is it riskier working from home? Well, employees are using personal devices for email, phone calls, Zoom meetings, etc. There's Zoom breaches. We saw that was very popular when Zoom first started. Their Wi-Fi and router networks don't have the same type of security that maybe an office would have. They don't have the same security protocols. The work from home model, according to statistics, has increased the average cost of a breach by $137,000. According to an April 2020 report by CPO Magazine, more than 500,000 Zoom users' accounts were compromised and sold on the dark web. These Zoom accounts have been collected via credential stuffing, which is using username and password combinations that were obtained in other breaches or other companies and stuffing them into multiple logon pages. Because users continue to use the one set of logon credentials, which we'll talk about a little later on, for multiple applications, the breach of one system puts multiple systems at risk. So let's talk about the types of cybercrime threats and trends. We've got phishing, which I'm sure everyone here has heard of at this point. There's COVID-based phishing, which we'll go into a little more. There's malware, ransomware attacks. There's cryptojacking, social engineering, piggybacking, wire fraud, and this is just maybe the top ones that everyone is aware of. There are a numerous amount of other forms of hacking and cybercrime that is out there. These trends and statistics include stealing credentials, personal data, and money, and have continued to explode since 2021. While these have been an ever-present threat in the digital age, a new form of phishing became available as a result of the COVID pandemic. Some of these scams use phishing to trick consumers by engaging readers to click links to sign up for government aid on fake websites, or here, come get your COVID vaccine. Just click on this link. That was very popular when everyone was trying to make their appointments in the beginning. Google found there were around 18 million COVID-relating phishing and malware emails sent every day, which it says it blocks. Now, I want to repeat that. 18 million a day, not a week, not a month, not a year. It's a day. And that's just the ones they're blocking. So we're not sure how many are actually getting through at that point. You put that over just 1 month, you're looking at 540 million emails. Cryptocurrency use continues to be a topic of discussion as well. And as a result, cryptojacking has emerged as a new form of cybercrime. As it grows, we'll see a rise in crypto-related cyber attacks. Cryptojacking is a type of cyber attack in which a hacker co-opts a target's computing power to illicitly mine cryptocurrency on the hacker's behalf, or hacking their crypto wallet. Cryptojacking can target individuals, consumers, massive institutions, and even industrial control systems. On the other side, social engineering attacks have grown and continue to be a threat, and is a method that criminals use to gain unauthorized access to your computer. The act of social engineering can start with the offline environment and then move to online activities, which are all associated with one motive in mind, which is to gain unauthorized access to PCs and personal information, and maybe your client's information. First American requires a yearly course on cybersecurity, and we receive phishing threats tests throughout the year, probably at least once a month. So let's look into the cybercrime statistics from the Verizon data breach investigation report specifically. So Verizon does this every year, and they release their findings so that businesses can use it for materials if they need to. As one of the largest telecommunication companies in America and one of the country's top internet service providers, they're in a unique position to analyze cybersecurity threats and prevention. So in 2020, there were 3,950 data breaches. Now, data breach means something actually happened. Someone actually got into the system to try and steal some kind of information, money, whatever the case may be. That was out of 32,000 incidents that were analyzed. There were 32,000 incidents, and 4,000 of them were actual data breaches. In 2021, there were only 29,000 incidents analyzed, but there were 5,298 data breaches. So a 27% increase in actual data breaches over that year. So just looking at a little closer at their statistics, 55% was human error or misdelivery. This is more in those incidents, not versus data breach. Of those 3,000 data breaches in 2020 and the 5,000 in 2021, 721 of them were considered major industry attacks, so large-scale attacks, and 467 of them were successful. They list out the incident types here, and I've provided that for you all. Business email compromise, the median loss was $30,000. The range of losses was anywhere from $250 to $985,000. For an actual computer data breach, the median loss was also $30,000, but the range of loss was much larger, $148 to $1.6 million. And for ransomware, the median loss was lower at $11,150, but the range of loss was still from $70 to $1.2 million. So let's just recap common methods we've already seen and what those attacks might look like. Many of these common methods are interconnected and can be delivery sources for another attack. So it's not usually just one. You're getting one which might deliver the next one. Malware, which is a catch-all term for all type of malicious software, is aimed at infecting a computer to disrupt, damage, or gain access. And then that malware will usually deliver one of these following. Viruses, a specific type of malware. It's a malicious code which is loaded onto a consumer's computer, a small business's computer, to network, which then self-replicates and spreads to other devices and programs. So once your network is compromised, it might spread then to your phone, to your in-house network, which we'll talk about when we talk about the home office. Ransomware, which is an encryption key that holds critical data hostage, which the hacker will then ask, usually for sums of money, to be paid to release the data, or they will delete it all. Wire fraud, this is a major issue in the title industry, in our business. And as the requests to use wires or payoffs have increased over the years exponentially, with that, hackers are finding new ways to scheme the wiring of money to themselves rather than the correct party. Smishing, which is a form of phishing, but over text instead, in which an attacker uses a compelling text message to trick targeted recipients into clicking a link and sending the attacker private information or downloading the malicious programs to a smartphone. Again, think about the links you got for when you might have gotten your vaccine shot for COVID. Here, come to CVS, set up an appointment. You had to be really careful with those links. Or testing site available at this following location, free appointment. You had to be very careful with those types of links being set directly to your phone. So let's talk about the evolution. If cybercrime wasn't a big enough threat, it's now growing or evolving into its own multi-million-dollar business. Individuals and governments can now buy hackers to use as weapons against whoever they want or point them in whichever direction they want. This includes ransomware, malware, or killware, all delivered by a hired hacker to destroy, ransom, or disrupt the data of the target. Now, I said individuals and governments, but businesses are doing it too. There's business espionage. How do you mess with a competitor? Do you want to go this route? It's not the legal route. It's definitely not the good route, but I think we'd be kidding ourselves to assume this is just individuals and governments out there doing this. Let's talk about the evolution of phishing. It's also evolving. There are now phishing kits out there that hackers can purchase, which contains all of the software needed to start an attack on a business. These phishing kits come with all sorts of tools, website development software, and they feature email templates and pre-made scripts that can be used to create convincing, authentic messages. One of the ways we used to say, "Oh, that's a fake email," was misspelled emails, using language that maybe we're not accustomed to. Email addresses don't look professional, whatever the case may be. Now you can just buy a kit that will provide you all of this information to make it that much harder to determine that's a fake email. These hackers can buy lists of email addresses, phone numbers, and additional software to deliver the malware automatically to targeted customers. Cloud services are extremely susceptible to this, as they are portraying phishing websites as authentic by being part of the cloud service. The digital age has transformed how everyday business is conducted. Practices such as online banking and never having to receive a paper statement have made it exponentially easier for the fraudsters and cybercriminals to carry out a successful scheme. You can view your account, pay your bills, access your funds without even ever having to leave your home. I'm sure almost every single one of our banks has an app where you can deposit your checks, transfer money between accounts, whatever the case may be. But with this newfound freedom and flexibility comes the ability for your digital accounts to be hacked and stolen, which, according to the 2021 Verizon DVR, continues to increase in frequency. These are referred to as account takeover attacks, featuring online identity theft, where a cyber criminal gains unauthorized access to the victim's account to perform fraud and data theft. They're going to be going after private information, and most of the time, the account information, and even sometimes the funds that an account may contain. Think your IOLA accounts. Fraudulent account access to customer accounts has always been a concern for financial institutions. Think check fraud. But today, these attacks can target any website that has a digital login. Accounts can be taken over by automatic scripts that can guess your common passwords. So remember to use different passwords if possible and try to change them regularly. Every couple months is the recommended practice. These attacks take advantage of the bad practice of using one password for multiple accounts and devices. And I'm not here to preach on that because I do it too. I'm sure we all do it. It's easier when it's similar passwords for us. Okay, I can log into all these different types of accounts, but we are leaving ourselves a little more open. Malware is another method to seize bank or credit card information by using stealer programs that can unlock a consumer's credentials. Cybercriminals love account takeovers because they can use stolen credit cards, sell the private information of the information they steal, install ransomware, apply for credit under the victim's names, etc. Personal information can then also be used further in phishing campaigns to make fraudulent emails seem more convincing and personalized to the target that they are sending it to. So I'm going to get a little science fiction-y here on everyone. Well, it's becoming more of a reality than science fiction. The use of artificial intelligence, or AI, to do the hacking for the hacker, it's here. AI is being used to enhance malware to counter improvements made with cybersecurity solutions. So as we get better, so are the hackers. Excuse me. CISOMAC.org, which is a cybersecurity news publication, states that hackers are using this AI to hide malignant code within seemingly friendly programs. The code can then be planted in a system or computer and activated under pre-programmed circumstances. So they don't even have to do anything. They don't have to hit a button. They don't have to wait for you to answer. The code can then be planted in a system, which the scary part is you may do everything in your power to isolate the code, and then it will go to sleep. It'll die, for lack of a better word, and remain dormant for extended periods of time to hide itself and strike when you're not expecting it to. And the worst part about it, as if this isn't bad enough, it's always learning and adapting to the situation. These attacks may not succeed at first, but they will adapt to succeed during future attacks, ensuing attacks. AI technology is now being used to create malware capable of mimicking trusted system components. This allows a hacker to launch a stealth attack, which are dangerous since cybercriminals can penetrate a system and leave it at will without anyone knowing. Earlier, we saw the statistic that about 30% don't even realize a cyber breach has occurred in the first few days. Well, AI now facilitates such attacks, and the technology will only lead to the development of faster and more intelligent types of attacks. Examples of recent cyber attacks targeting municipalities here in New York. You might say, well, where on a large scale has this happened? Suffolk County was shut down in August of 2022. I know Rich was very involved with gathering as much information as possible to present to you all and get you the information you needed. All levels here were attacked: emergency services, policing, searching, recording. 6 months later, and they were still trying to repair issues from hacking. I'm confident in saying I'm pretty sure they're all good now, but it took a long time to get back to that. COT systems were hacked in December of 22. So 4 months later, imaging and recording company. It's an imaging and recording company that operates in 21 states across the country. Here we had a private company, so there was a difference response time. I want to say within a month, they had almost everything up and running. So the difference between a municipality trying to get everything up and running versus a private company, we saw the difference there. So let's switch gears a little bit to the remote workforce. And this is going to be a heavy influence throughout the rest of the presentation. So we're going to come back to this a few times. The remote workforce and the home offices have become the new norm in today's society. Along with it being more convenient and sometimes effective, it also comes with increased cyber risks and issues. The home office specifically is the new popular target for cyber criminals. Is everyone here using a VPN when they're at home working? A VPN hides the user's actual public IP and tunnels traffic between the device and a remote server. If your Wi-Fi or VPN is hacked, it can easily compromise your home network and any devices that are connected to it. What about your phones? As 5G rolls out across the country, its system has far more traffic routing points than the centralized design of the 4G network. This allows hacker more cellular reception points for logged in users. How many of you in your home have a smart TV or have your home hooked up to control your HVAC, air conditioning, your lights, maybe even your door locks? What about who has a Ring camera? As more of this technology integrates into our homes, into our home offices, attacks will continue to increase because there will be more points of access. All of these advancements give the modern hacker more avenues to get to your network. For example, a Milwaukee company had their smart home hacked and had to endure disturbing music from a video security system at high volumes while the hacker talked to them via camera in the kitchen. The hacker also raised the temperature to 90 degrees by hacking into the thermostat. This is to demonstrate that if they can hack into all these items, what is to stop them from accessing your remote VPN and accessing work accounts and this information, your clients' accounts, your personal accounts, all of that. When you bring your laptop home, if you connect your laptop to your home network, is a possible target. Going back to the ethics portion, how many of you here, when you're meeting with a client, turn off Siri and Alexa? Who's listening? What information is being collected there? Listen, I'll talk about a golf club, and all of a sudden my phone will have 3 targeted ads to me about that golf club without me even searching it. When you're going into a meeting, are you protecting your client's information by, one, turning your phone off, leaving your phone outside the meeting, or turning off Siri and Alexa? I know when I'm having a personal conversation, a lot of times I will turn Siri and Alexa off. It's just something to consider. So what does this have to do with the legal and title industries a little further? Theft of personal information or passwords, confidential info leading to an economic loss for a client, a company, or yourself. Your company being the next victim, specifically in the wire funding world, which we're going to talk about next. Wire fraud is an epidemic in this business. Most fundings are done over email, and hackers are taking advantage of this, where they are changing wire instructions, they're doctoring emails, they're hacking and intercepting phone calls. You might think that's crazy, but I have people reaching out to me at least once a week talking about, I got this email, I got this phone call, I got this payoff that was changed on me. What do you think? So how do we combat it? So wire fraud. Wire fraud is a scam that involves the fraudulent attainment of banking information to gain access to another's bank accounts or redirect funds to a criminal's bank account. We will talk about the different tactics and strategies fraudsters have used, and some cases we have seen as a result of this. But first, here is the code. So the code is 1003. Again, for everyone, if you want your credit, make sure you write this number down. The code number is 1003. Thank you, Diana. Okay, I'll give everyone just another couple seconds, but Diana wrote it down, so let's move on. So let's talk about wire fraud. We're going to start with the hacker's favorite tactic, and it's usually their first step as well, and that's fraudulent emails. They will create fake emails to launch a phishing attack account or account takeover. The main message of these emails often targets emotions and utilizes urgency in some way and have the look of a legitimate email. Again, think about those phishing kits we talked about. The hackers can pose as a vendor, a client, or even another financial institution attempting to obtain either commonly used tactic, personal information, or divert funds. The Wall Street Journal did some research on a lot of these tactics in connection with phishing that include the following: loss aversion, a hacker leaning on you to help make sure your company doesn't lose money; authority bias, hackers appearing to be a manager, a boss, a CEO in your own company, directing the funds, get this done now; urgency bias, the threats of losing a deal, or that you're going to cost your customer money. Oh, the per diem is going to go up if you don't get this money in right now, if you don't wire it to me today. The halo bias, which is appearing as a Wells Fargo, Chase Bank, TD Bank, one of those big major institutions, someone you trust. The reward bias, which is the temptation to choose immediate rewards like getting the job done quickly. And optimism bias, perhaps most aptly named as overconfidence. Well, it won't happen to me. It's unlikely that I'm going to fall subject to this. Shishing. Again, this is those SMS smishing, getting these types of texts. Can you tell the difference between these types of emails? I can't just looking at them. How can you do that? Well, I copy and paste. Don't reply. If you don't recognize the email or you're concerned that maybe they're changing instructions on you and you're trying to figure out what to do, don't reply all. Type in an email you trust specifically and go from there. So the fraudulent wire scam remains a serious threat to your business, with criminals plotting and waiting for the right opportunity. Financial organizations continue to be the common target. This is because criminals are drawn to the prospect of a large and fast sum of cash. If the scam is successful, they only need to get it right once. The money is stolen anonymously. Without face-to-face validation of a party's identity, a person in the middle of a transaction may unknowingly transfer money to a criminal's bank account instead of the intended recipient's accounts. As we mentioned in the last slide, wire fraud attacks rely on a number of factors, including fear, senses of urgency, and panic. And a criminal can deceive a party into thinking the transfer of funds is necessary when it's really not. They can also provide fraudulent bank account information for the victim to unwittingly use. Often the email, text, or spoof phone call will have an urgent request that a deal will fail unless the money is wired right away. The fraudster's objective here is to frighten the victim into ignoring due diligence and recommended practices and hurriedly wire their transaction funds to an awaiting criminal posing as a legitimate party. So here are some tips for preventing wire fraud that I have for you. Carefully secure your computer, devices, and bank accounts. Make sure they're up to date in terms of whatever the latest security packages are. Use a multi-factor authentication. We're going to talk about that in a case next, but do not decline to use multi-factor authentication. Implement one dedicated computer for wire transfers and bank transactions. Block foreign wires and automated clearinghouse transactions. Limit the amount of wires that can be sent out in a day. Limit the actual amount of the wire that can be sent out in a day. Stay vigilant. All parties to a real estate deal are potential targets. Make sure all parties understand the process for wiring funds in your office. Provide a list of approved contacts and wire instructions at the beginning of your transaction. When First American handles a deal, our wire instructions go out at the beginning. They don't change, and we make sure the parties know that. Make sure all parties can keep them handily as a reference. Avoid haste. Avoid making decisions quickly. Verify emails. Always check the sender's emails for anything odd. Consider using the forward option and typing in, like I talked about earlier, instead of the reply option. When you type in a trusted email address, it reduces the chances of accidentally replying to potential cyber criminals. Big red flag, look out for last-minute changes. Treat any changes to wire instructions with suspicion, especially on Fridays, before a holiday. Changes to wire instructions are rare. Make sure any changes only come from a closing agent, from someone you trust. So let's talk about one of those good cases. I say good in quotations. March 2010, Village View Escrow v. Professional Business Bank. They caught the virus when the owner received an email from UPS saying that there was a problem with the package. Phishing email, clicks on a link, malware delivered. 26 consecutive wires over 2 days, all out of the country, totaling $465,000. Happy ending here because the bank had established an email notification process. It's not on here, but there is a bad case that I sometimes talk about, which is Choice Escrow. Choice Escrow v. I think also Professional Business Bank. Choice Escrow declined the use of multi-authentication factors. Only one wire was sent out, and it was about $500,000, but they lost in court. They tried to say that the bank didn't have the proper financial protections, but they were offered those financial protections and declined in writing to use them. So if you're going to take one thing from me, please make sure you use multi-factor authentication. Do not leave it for one password, one person type situations, especially when you're dealing with large sums of money. So let's talk about the cell phone, this wonderful thing for some of us, and for some of us, we hate them, but the cell phone has come a long way in today's society. Our world has become, for better or worse, a device-driven society, which continues to expand the use of apps, smartphones, tablets, and computers. Who here has a company-issued computer, phone, iPad? Who does their banking from their phone? From my personal phone, I have access to all my accounts, I pay my bills, I transfer money, and I pay for things with my cards on Apple Pay. Well, banking application fraud has become a result of where criminals hack into that financial app and perform financial theft. They fraudulently target business and consumers equally, and it is a common form of cybercrime at this point. Unlike other cybercrime, a financial app fraudster is hacking the banking app. They're not hacking the person to steal small amounts of money, which are then used to fund larger attacks. So most consumers are oblivious if $1 is taken out of your account. Remember that a bank or credit union will never text or call you for sensitive information, and they will not ask you to transfer funds between accounts to prevent fraud. If this happens to you, hang up immediately and call your financial institution with the phone number on the back of your bank-issued card to ensure your security. Banks do not want you to send money using unverified payment accounts. Anyone contacting you requesting that you send money through Cash App, for example, or even Zelle, Cash App is probably the best example, might be trying to lure you into a scam. If this happens, contact your bank directly and ask them if this is a legitimate request. While banking apps provide ease and convenience, they could also offer you up to potential hacking. Protect yourself by always employing the multi-factor authentication. Again, my biggest thing, protect yourself. Again, here's one of those couple of those bad outcomes I was talking about. It's Choice Escrow v. Bancorp Bank. This is for $440,000. This was the one where they declined the multi-factor authentication. Another bad outcome, Efficient Services Escrow, hacked for $1.5 million. They recovered about a third of it, but they were shut down by the state of California in July of 2013. And again, this is just some more of the information. I believe it is in your materials. If not, if anyone wants to reach out to me, I can send you the case. So let's talk about that device security. We've already talked about how many of us have company phones, tablets, computers on top of our own personal devices. And with the proliferation of laptop and tablet use, they need to protect against the theft. The threat of theft must be part of your business's security measures. That includes protecting USB drives and mobile hard drives that, if stolen, could be disastrous for you and your business. The chances of a bad actor attempting to steal equipment are always present. The University of Pittsburgh reports that a laptop has a 1 in 10 chance of being stolen, and nearly half of all laptop thefts occur in an office or a classroom. 98% of stolen laptops are never recovered. While we may feel glued to our laptops and other mobile devices, you can't lose sight of them for even a second, as they can be taken away if we're sloppy with our physical security. I'm going to talk about physical and digital security. These are just stats in regards to items being stolen. But what if you forget your laptop, iPad, phone on the train or in a coffee shop? Our hope is the Good Samaritan will return it to us, or it can end up in the lost and found. But this is the exception. It's not the rule, unfortunately. The next few slides, we're going to be going over the helpful ways to protect yourself and your business in the case that happens. So let's talk about theft protection. Laptops and tablets are prime targets for thieves and criminals. We're a little more attached to our phones, right? They're in our pockets. They're small enough to be in our pockets. It's harder to get them. Laptops and iPads, we put in a bag. We might forget the bag on the top rack of the Metro North, not speaking from personal experience or anything. And a healthy rule of thumb is to assume you're always being watched when you're using mobile devices in a public space or even at your office. Let's explore security steps you can take to ensure these devices remain secure. Physically securing your laptop computer by keeping it in an office or desk that can be locked. All my desks in my office have keys for me to lock. If I leave something in there, you better believe it's still going to get locked, even though I'm in my office. If at a desk outside an office, lock your laptop in your desk when you leave for the night. Never leave your devices unattended in a coffee shop, in your gym bag if you're working out. Require your employees. Okay, perfect. So never leave your laptop anywhere in your car where you can be the subject of a smash and grab theft. Require a sign-in procedure for visitors to your office. Consider carrying your laptop in an unremarkable case. That one, someone sees a bag on you, they know probably your laptop's in it, if anything. That one I'm not so, set on. So let's talk about the home office security. We talked about the physical security of your actual office, but what about your home office? You might not think that that's important, but as discussed, many clients have switched to some form of hybrid working from the home situation. Home office security, therefore, has become a very important element due to the increase of these remote offices. So let's talk about some best practices for protecting your home and remote office. So, physical security. It might seem redundant because you're thinking you're not going to let someone break into your home, are you? Well, the home is actually considered a softer target than, say, breaking into a corporate office to steal a corporate computer. Home offices are you. Does your home feature a, which I'm sure it does? Do you have a video doorbell monitor and alert system like a Ring? Is it all on the Wi-Fi system? I have my Ring, but then I have something else in my home that does not run on Wi-Fi that keeps keeps a video for me. This way, if I need to, I can take a look at that without worrying about it being hacked. Sorry. Do you know your neighbors well? And again, I know some of this sounds a little far-fetched and a little crazy, but they're important. And would they alert you if they saw somebody strange entering or leaving your home? Do you routinely check around your home for suspicious activity? This is an interesting one because it can mean a lot of different things. For me personally, it means I go through every night and make sure every single door is locked, even if I know nobody's come through that door that day. Same thing with the windows are locked before I go to sleep. If you have a camera-based security system for your home, are you reviewing the footage regularly, or are you just, okay, I got a Ring notification, I'm not even going to look. I'm going to assume it's the Amazon driver to see if there's any suspicious activity going on at night or maybe when you're away. Do you get Ring alerts that allow you to check footage? Ring has two different types of packages, one where it stores it for you so you can review, and another that just alerts you in the moment. Again, some of these might seem far-fetched, but they're just additional ways you can consider in protecting your home. All right, so that's the physical security. What about the digital security of protecting your home office from a cyber attack? Well, this might be a little more daunting compared to your corporate office, but you can use similar steps that your corporate office uses. You can protect your home office and, most importantly, your business. Always use strong passwords when logging into your computers and devices. Use antivirus and anti-malware software and be sure it's up to date. Many offices, when a computer is hooked up overnight, is when they're getting any patches or updates to a system. So always make sure you allow your computer to be updated every couple days to best protect it. On Macs, they have the software update, check for regular updates, that kind of thing. Activate the firewall in your operating system. You can control how strong or how weak your firewall is on your computer. Protect your home Wi-Fi network and router by keeping them updated with, again, the latest security, patches, and create strong, unique passwords. Make sure you know who you're giving your Wi-Fi password out and access to. And this might seem crazy, but one time someone came to my door and they said they were lost and they asked if they could use the Wi-Fi to pull up their maps. And I felt bad, but I didn't want to give my Wi-Fi password out to a complete stranger at the time. They were able to pull it up right there with their internet, luckily. But I did feel bad. But at the same time, I didn't know them. I didn't want to expose my Wi-Fi network to someone. Use a virtual private network, again, for your home office with, again, the latest security patches. Scrutinize emails for authenticity. Avoid clicking links from unknown sources. I've already mentioned this, but again, it bears worth repeating. Do not use auto login features. This one for me is a tough one because they make life a lot easier for people. But again, are they the best thing? No, because it's hackable. When visiting your banking and business-related websites specifically, you want to use it for, I don't know, Netflix? Sure, go ahead. For your bank account, maybe think twice about it. It's a best practice to not have your bank information autofill. And this even goes another step. Now phones allow you to save your credit cards on there and autofill your credit cards. Again, it makes life easy, but it makes life susceptible at the same time. So just think about it. If you're using a web conference, have a password. You can control who has access to your video conferences. You are all aware of the risks of hijacking and Zoom bombing at this point when it comes to Zoom meetings. Again, here's the strong password slide that I like to talk about. Protect yourselves specifically. Passwords creation guideline 10 to 16 characters long, lowercase and uppercase letters, special characters, numbers as letters, using song titles and phrases is a good one. Never write down your passwords. And when I say write down, I mean like don't have a black book of your passwords kind of thing. Just going back quickly, for your mobile device security, ensure all mobile devices have a screen lock enabled. Company requires me to have any device screen locked. Do you require a PIN, 4-digit, 6-digit, 8-digit, whatever it is? Touch, face scan for access. Keeping your device patched with the latest vendor updates. Avoid public Wi-Fi access points. So that optimum Wi-Fi that you might see randomly. Yeah, it's great for convenience, but the security on it might not be as great. We don't know. Use a password manager. Again, this goes in a little bit in the face of write down your passwords, but some of the rationale here is you shouldn't keep a physical copy. When I was working on this presentation, I was conflicted on this because a digital copy, in my opinion, is just as easily hackable, but the thought process is it won't get stolen if someone breaks into your home kind of thing. Don't plug unknown USB flash drives into your laptop. Only use verified secure USB flash drives. Again, password security is difficult because many times we want them to be quick and easy to remember, but here are the best practices for avoiding that. Password management, creating strong passwords and guarding them by using these best practices is the best way. Do not share your password with anyone. Never give up your password to anyone on social media or websites for any reason. They will never ask. Do not reuse passwords for multiple accounts. I'm guilty of this one. I know I am. I'm trying to go through and changing them, but it's hard. Protecting your reset options. Make sure you have multiple reset options if possible. Once you've used these questions for like your security questions, change them. Do not use them again. Use a two-factor authentication. Oh, and that's our alarm. I'm just quickly going to get through this last point. Use a two-factor authentication. Consumers and small businesses have been victimized because simple password protection steps were not followed. Cyber criminals cannot wait to pounce on these missteps. Embrace password protection. With that, thank you, everyone. We'll go through, I think we have a couple minutes to go through some questions, Diana.
Yep, I think you covered almost all of the questions that were asked. I have one or two that I'll go over, but this is scary, especially in our business where you're dealing with real estate transactions and you're dealing with, wiring large sums of money. What we always say is pick up the phone. If you get a last minute wire change, I know we don't like to talk to anyone anymore as much, but pick up the phone, call them, make sure that
absolutely
that email came from who they said they were coming from. And also, we every year, our employees have to take a refresher class, take a quiz, and periodically they'll send out tests, to see who clicks on things. So those two things, especially in this business are really important. As far as employees and the office, do you have a form computer policy language for a law office requiring employees to comply with security protocols, or is there anything of that nature you would suggest?
I don't. I would suggest, yes, having a policy as to best practices for your office. Again, it's going to be, there's no real good form for it because every office is different. A large office is going to treat it differently than a small office. Obviously, of 100 employees versus 5 employees, you're going to treat that differently how you manage your security. What I would say is sit down and try and work out a system that works best for you and make sure your employees are all aware of what they need to be doing with their devices.
I'm just going to go over 2 more quick questions and then we will end. Can you talk about email encryption? What outgoing email should be encrypted, or do you suggest email encryption?
Yeah, so this is another tricky one because email encryption is great, but sometimes it makes it difficult for quick conversations, right? What I will say is if you're including NPI, so non-personal information, so social security numbers, account information sometimes, any of that coming out of the First American system, all goes through Securest. Like, it will not let us send that kind of information in an email without it being a secure email. So I would say use your best judgment. If it's information that you don't want being stolen, maybe it is best to encrypt it.
Okay. And are there any password managers out there that you would suggest, or?
There is not one where I'm like, okay, this is the king, this is the coup de grace, the best of the best. I would just say do your research on that. Again, find one that works for you. Honestly, I like the Apple one, where it's stored in my phone, it's backed up. That one has been useful. But again, I think it's going to be a little bit of personal preference on that.
Okay. Thank you very much. I appreciate your time. It is now 2:00. We will end on time. If you have any questions, you can shoot me an email. I'll try to get them answered as quickly as possible. I will resend everyone the affirmation, the material, and the evaluation before the end of the day, and you'll all get your certificates by next week. Thank you again, Tony, for a great presentation, and thank you all for coming.
Thank you, everyone.